After my first viewing of The Return of the King, a question arose in my mind that has haunted me ever since. And no, it wasn't the overused one. Why didn't the hobbits just fly to Mordor on the eagles? My question was different, and to me far more intriguing. Why did Aragorn release the army of the dead right after they had proven their incredible effectiveness? That scene of their arrival is one of the most breathtaking moments in the entire trilogy. Phantom warriors sweeping across the battlefield, bringing death to the enemy, wiping out entire hosts. It was a weapon against which Sauron had little to no defense. One would think that keeping them around would have ended the war in mere days. And yet, as soon as victory was secured at the gates of Minas Tirith, Aragorn granted them freedom. At first glance, it seems illogical, but on closer inspection the choice begins to make sense. The history of the dead goes back to ancient times. They were once the people of the White Mountains who swore an oath of allegiance to Isildur, only to betray him at the crucial moment and refuse to fight against Sauron. In punishment, Isildur cursed them, and ever since their souls knew no rest. Only his heir could lift the curse and grant them release. That heir was Aragorn. He gave them a chance to fulfill their long broken vow, and the dead agreed to fight in order to redeem themselves. But here lies the key. By releasing them after the battle, Aragorn showed not weakness, but loyalty to his word. He had promised them release, and he kept his promise. One could argue that he might have worded the agreement differently, leaving himself a loophole to hold on to the army until the end of the war. Yet doing so would have cost him the very thing that mattered most: trust and honor. For a future king, that was far more important than any tactical advantage. There is also the shadow of doubt to consider. These ghosts had already once broken their oath. True, they now fought on the side of good, but could they ever truly be trusted? Perhaps Aragorn felt that relying on them any further was too dangerous. Moreover, his authority over them was likely not absolute. He could demand the fulfillment of a specific vow, but imposing new terms might not have been within his power. And finally, there's the structure of the story itself. The army of the dead in The Lord of the Rings plays the role of a miracle, a sudden, almost divine intervention that turns the tide of battle at the darkest hour. But miracles cannot remain on the battlefield forever. Tolkien, in shaping his mythology, understood this perfectly. Had the dead continued fighting, the story would have lost its tension and drama. The triumph of the living would have been replaced by a simple domination of supernatural force. In the end, Aragorn's decision appears entirely logical. He preserved his honor, kept his promise, freed the world from lingering shadows, and at the same time allowed the story to unfold so that the final victory would belong to the living, not to the ghosts of the past. That is what makes the scene not a flaw in the script, but a deliberate element of the legend, where the heart of the tale is not the power of an army, but the choice of a man who remained true to his word, even in the hardest of hours. If we see Aragorn's action not merely as military strategy, but as a profoundly symbolic step, its meaning becomes even clearer. This was not simply about war and triumph over Sauron, it was about power, trust, and the weight of a promise. For Tolkien, a hero's honor was always greater than his might. Aragorn embodies that ideal perfectly. He is not simply a warrior, but a future king, heir to an ancient line. His true strength lies not only in the sword he carries, but in the weight of his word, which is stronger than any spell. By refusing to keep the dead by his side, he put his faith in the living, in the alliance of men, elves, dwarves, and hobbits. For it was their struggle that had to bring the final victory, not the spectral shadow of a bygone age. There is a profound meaning in this choice. Imagine if Aragorn had kept the dead and led them through the rest of the war. What would that have changed? Middle-earth might still have won, but at what cost? At the cost of relying on a force the living could never truly control. Victory would no longer have been their own. It would have been a gift granted by the dead, and that gift would forever cast doubt. Are men capable of standing on their own, or will they always need otherworldly aid? Tolkien, as a man who had endured the First World War, understood deeply that the true value of victory lies in the fact that it is earned by the living, through their own hands, their own courage, their own blood. The army of the dead was spectacular, yes, but it was not the future. They embodied old guilt and an ancient curse, not the new age Aragorn sought to build. By releasing them, he was breaking the chains of the past and declaring, from this moment we march forward on our own.